Hello and welcome to all the men and women of the West. I'm Joe, here with me is my co-host Dan.
Hello and greetings.
Today we're going to be continuing Red Nails. Last time on Red Nails, we found out that Conan had been ordered to death by Olmec, who has seized Valeria. So Conan is pretty peeved at this and decides to get his woman back. In turn, Olmec informs Valeria that Conan is dead, and she breaks down because she lost her man.
And then Olmec decides to call dibs.
Well, Conan already had dibs. He had first, so
Olmec,
by the bro code, Olmec is actually violating... Actually, he's violating the most sacred part of the bro code and the playbook, according to Barney Stinson.
as far as he knows it, he killed Conan so he can have dibs.
No, it doesn't work that way. You have to actually make sure he's dead and give a due mourning period, I think. At least that's according to Brosis. I'm kidding. I think it's Brosis. Tuscella ends up arriving and scaring Olmec in a rather chilling scene. Olmec having apparently drugged Valeria, and Tuscella having apparently drugged Olmec. Then you have Tuscella, who apparently is pretty strong, ripping off Olmec's beard. And we find out that Olmec, in his youth, apparently was in love with Tuscella. And Tuscella hypnotizes Olmec, sort of, and forces him to drink the drugged wine. And honestly, one of the most terrifying scenes, because she's just like, drink. The way it's described, he doesn't want to, but he can't stop himself from drinking this wine.
It's like a violation.
Yeah. Not to be crude or... Like, in real life, it's a lot stranger to hear of men being violated in such a way. It is a lot harder, biologically and whatnot, to violate men. Now, psychologically, it has happened a lot in human history. But this kind of violation feels almost physical, like a physical violation. And that's where it's so strange and horrifying in a way. I'm not trying to prop up men, but it's just... Now, Valeria, the way both of them want to violate her is even more wrong. But this is terrifying in a way, as a man. But on the other hand, when Tuscella says, I'm going to siphon the youth from you to Valeria, that's an even more chilling scene than the Olmec thing. I'm going to be honest. When Tuscella comes out as a lich, that had me terrified. Now, a lich is typically an undead mage, kind of like the mage version of a death knight or a vampire. The thing about a lich is that in some forms of media, such as in the sci-fi universe of Star Wars or in the Dragonlance universe, a lich siphons the literal life force and youth from the victim, or even the magic, as in the case with Feast on Dantalus, who's the main lich of Dragonlance. It's just as chilling as Feast on Dantalus, who I would argue is one of the most terrifying villains in Dragonlance and fantasy history. Valeria, though, is hypnotized. If she was not hypnotized, I'm going to be honest, she'd take out Tuscella. Injured or no. Sorry, but Valeria is one of my favorite characters now. This story has totally won me over. Valeria might just be up there as one of my top 5 favorite female characters of all times. I really like Valeria. Red Nails did a great job selling her. She is what Kitiara should have been, had she been good. And actually, I like the idea that Kitiara is a bit of an evil version of Valeria over in Dragonlance.
That's a very interesting route to take.
And it shows this. I think Weiss and Hickman were familiar with Valeria and decided to make an evil version of Valeria. There's room for that. Any writers listening to this, seriously, an evil version of Valeria is a really cool concept.
And we could even stretch that to compare Lord Thoth to Conan.
Yeah, in a way, he's an evil version of Conan. Although I like to compare him to kind of Olmec here.
That's fair.
Conan, though, tortures Olmec for info. Olmec offers his help. We're at chapter 7, by the way, at this point. Conan then ends up loosening the cords around Olmec. Olmec then informs him that he knows a secret route into the hall where Tuscella is, thinking it locked when it was not locked. Conan hears Valeria scream in fear and panics. Olmec attempts to kill Conan, with the two falling down a flight of stairs, with Conan in midair as they're falling, killing Olmec, snapping his neck. In one of the coolest, but also one of the most wow. I don't know if that's actually physically possible for a man to do. As strong as Arnold in his prime was. If anyone has actually fought in the military or something and has actually done this sort of thing, do let us know in the comment section if it's actually doable.
It'd be an interesting story to read.
Yeah, because we don't know. We don't have any combat experience like that. Olmec is dead. Valeria is, of course, nude on the altar. Now, this is where Conan freaks out and goes to rush forward, like he does in a lot of our other stories. There are tons of Conan stories where he rushes forward, fights the mage, and saves the damsel. This is the first time he runs into essentially a bear trap. Punctures his leg, with Tuscella gloating. But then Tolkemec, the ancient lover of of Tuscela, who slaughtered the one tribe of people, Tolkemec, the former slave guy from Olmec's story, proceeds to attack Tuscela. She reels back because that guy is magical like her, except is psychotic and berserk, and Conan kills Tolkemec, while Valeria kills the distracted Tuscela on page 573 of the Black Book edition. In a really impressive ambush, Valeria slinks up quietly like a cat as Tuscela's falling and takes her out. It's one of my favorite scenes. It's just, wow. Like, going to show, never turn your back on Valeria.
Agreed.
Valeria's just in a league of her own. I love Valeria. And the two heroes kiss as they're leaving the city and vow to go pillage and plunder more towns and cities, which is a little villainous of them. But they vow to stay together and to pillage others. It's kind of romantic in a bloodthirsty, kind of semi-toxic way.
The fact that they say, yeah, we're taking enough food
and treasure,
and we're ditching this.
No, wait, they leave the treasure behind because they're like, we're not touching any of this cursed stuff.
We're just taking some food and we're ditching. We don't want to stay here any longer than we have to.
Yeah, but I like how they kiss and say, let's go pillage some places. They're such barbarians. I love these two characters. Like, they are heroic in their own way, but okay, I would not want to cross them. If only we got a follow-up story with Valeria.
That's fair.
I'd love to know what she's doing when Conan is king of Aquilonia. This might sound weird, but I'd hope she's in the harem, in the Seraglio. Yeah, I know Zenobia's to end up being queen, and I don't mind that. But it'd be great if Valeria ended up the second highest woman in the Empire. I just think it'd be really neat and cool to have at least one story which references that. And it'd also be interesting to see Zenobia and Valeria kind of interact. Although I think Valeria would be annoyed, but also a little... She'd probably react a bit more passively towards Zenobia, because I noticed Valeria's a bit passive as a woman when it comes to love, whereas Zenobia is the more aggressive one. I think they both end up agreeing Zenobia ranks higher in Conan's affection. Let's rate this story. I'm going to say this is from 0 to 4 stars, I'm going to say this is a 3.1.
A good solid 3.
This is a really great story. This is almost perfect. This is so phenomenal. That said, I would have liked a bit more actual horror elements to an extent. I wish some of the Lich stuff got a little stretched out. I would have liked another 2 chapters to this story. But that's a positive of this story as well, in that we want to see more of it. We want more of Valeria. We want more of Conan. Why did you only rate it a 3?
It is something very enjoyable. As you mentioned, I want to see more.
But it's not as good in your eyes as the Phoenix and the Sword?
Exactly.
That story was more simply written, but there was something about it that was very special and whatnot. Yeah. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more of our content and support the channel, don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button as though you were Valeria smashing your enemies to pieces.